Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
There's a revolution going on in California. So many sanctuary areas want out of this ridiculous crime-infested and breeding concept. Jerry Brown is trying to back out of the National Guard at the border, but the people of the state are not happy, want security and safety now. Now, the facts of this, there's a lot of exaggeration, this hyperbole. That's Trump when he tweets. However, the phrase breeding concept has some outraged. Did the president cross a line? Let's get the bottom line with Charles Blow, CNN political commentator and op-ed columnist for the New York Times. What's the simple answer?
Well, breed is a concept you normally apply to animals and some plants, right? And breeding is the reproduction of those animals and plants. And so whether or not, what his intent is, who can ever know? The effect, though, is the dehumanizing of people, the otherizing of people, and the animalizing of people. And once you take a human being and reduce the humanity in that person where your fellow citizens no longer see that person as fully human, it opens the gate for you to do all manner of things to those people. And that is a very historical concept. That is an ancient concept. And we've seen that in recent history where during the crack epidemic, for instance, we had this kind of quack science that labels some people who were users and some people who were sellers as super predators. It kind of dehumanized to the point where you were allowed then to enact all sorts of draconian policies because all of a sudden they weren't human like you and I.
Once you define somebody as less than, then there's an expectation they will be treated as less than.
Less than human, not just less than
another human.
Yeah, as another human, not just less than importance in society, your contributions, just fully less than human. And that is a real thing. And maybe if it was someone else, you may be able to make an argument that maybe they slipped the tongue or whatever. But this particular person, this president, has a history of problematic racial language and actions. And therefore, you don't really give him the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you, Charles M. Blow of the New York Times. Thank you for clarifying how this president dehumanizes people into others. This tweet of his about breeding, that California, sanctuary cities where there's a breeding effort. This man just freaks me the freak out, okay? And yesterday's show ended entirely too quickly because we didn't bring up the Starbucks crap until, and it is crap. And I told you, all this shit, you got to cut the crap, people. You got to cut it out of your lives. Fake news, racist tweets, racist rants, Alex Jones, blaming, victimizing parents of little children who were shot dead and killed. I mean, today, we called the show today So Sue Me because that's all there is today. Lawsuits everywhere. Everyone looking for some sort of justice, and there's none that, it's just so frustrating. I can't even tell you. Anyway, so the Starbucks incident, obviously, we told you that they are going to shut their stores May 29th so that they can have unconscious racial bias classes for people who say things like, I see the dehumanization of people, or I see them being followed around in the store, or I see the police harassing them and shit, and I know it's wrong. And yet, when I have to rent something to them, like a storage cube or, an apartment, sometimes I don't show them what I have. And I don't know why I do it. Unconscious bias, okay, that kind of thing. But now there's even more stories that are going viral. And you know what? Thank God for social media in this way. You get to see unarmed people being shot and killed because they had been otherized. They are the victims of 400 years of dehumanization and otherizing. And this president, you know, just in case, you know, you thought we were getting better for a little while and then we got worse, that's true. That's absolutely true. The amount of white supremacy that's been unleashed in this freaking country because of the president that we have and because of the crap that that man says and the history of him being very proud that Roy Cohn, his Roy Cohn, helped him fight against, when he wouldn't rent to black people. His guy, Roy Cohn, came and they fought it in court. And of course, you know, he was, they had to settle it, right? And then he did it again. But where's his Roy Cohn? Well, Cohn and Cohen, you know, sound kind of similar. They are kind of similar. We'll get there today, too. But now there's the stories I just read. I got to tell you, they made me sick. They literally, I went into the, you know, the boys know what I have in front of me because, you know, we all share our stuff in the morning and then, you know, it has to get posted and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, Brett knows and Scott knows, you know, ahead of what, you know, what is happening now. They know, you know, what's on my plate. And I wasn't going to do this right away. But it made me so sick. It made me so it's all I can think of. And I have to get it out. Because individuals are going to make the difference here. Individuals. So you need to see the whole slate of stories I just read all together in one giant rip, okay? LA Fitness has now fired a manager and 2 employees in New Jersey, okay? It was in Secaucus. I know that place very well. But anyway, so you had a guy in LA Fitness who'd been a member of that exact gym, that same place he went to for 8 years. For 8 freaking years. His name is Mr. Oates. And he goes there and he says they always sort of shake him down. They always bother him. They always, you know, but, you know, he's practiced. He's practiced in being, you know, unthreatening. It's just his way of life. It's just what he's learned as a black man. Just go about your business and consciously be non-threatening. And that's what he was doing. And he brought a friend to the gym on one of the membership guest passes that was available to him as a member for 8 years. And he went in, you know, they swipe your card to make sure, and, you know, his picture comes up and they go, okay, you know, go ahead. And here's my friend. I gave him a guest card. You know, he's going to try out your gym. Okay, have fun. 5 minutes later, somebody comes up to him and says, can I re-swipe your card? He goes, you know, why do you always do this to me? How come you always do this to me? He goes, clearly I am a longtime member. Clearly I've been here for 8 years. I have a current valid membership. And the staff got testy with him. And they said, you know, we need to clarify that, you know, you're a member. He goes, you just checked me in. Come on. Now tell me, what is really going on here? And they called the cops. They called the police. And so he took out his cell phone and he started to record, you know, all the events. And, you know, here's a little snippet. There are 4 videos. They have all gone viral. He was just, you know, doing what he always does. You know, 8 years going to the same gym. Scanned him in, scanned his friend in, and he said, I'm the only person in the gym that you asked to scan again. Why am I the only person in the gym that you had? And there were only 2 black people in the gym, and it's almost always just him as a black man in the gym in Secaucus. And they're always doing this to him. So he's, you know, they called the cops and he started filming.
LA Fitness Secaucus.
Secaucus.
Been having multiple problems with this club. I got my membership right here. I scanned in. I was asked to scan in again for no reason. I'm the only person in the gym they asked to scan again. And I have my membership. I've been a member here for at least 8 years. You got the cops here. You got the police here.
Oh, my God.
Excuse me, what's your name? Sit down. don't matter. They'll know who you are. All right, here. Go ahead, scan it. I told you I'll scan it with your manager, right? Go ahead, scan that. And they call the police for this. Police right here. What that say on screen? Have a nice day.
Can we go work out now?
Have a very nice day. For the sea caucus again. I'll look for the sea caucus again.
Dude, you're not allowed to film it.
Why not?
Let's put that over. Okay, now we definitely. Let's figure this out, all right?
I do want to figure out. We're
gonna get the
all these police officers here for what reason?
We're just here, man.
Look at all these cops.
Contract is being terminated because what? Because what?
I don't have the answers.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows my contract is being terminated. The manager doesn't like me, so my contract is being terminated.
We're gonna write the case up and down for you that we came here for. What?
Absolutely, no problem. Are you with anybody? I didn't do anything to anybody. Listen, and we're the only two black people in jail. Let's make this a black thing. We're only two black people in jail. Only two black people in jail. Been having problems with this staff for months over nothing. Every time something new.
Look, did you see all those police? There's like 6 police officers in the gym. 6 police officers. And he walks up to the counter and he goes, you called the police for this? Here, scan me. See that right there? That's me. I've been a member here since 2010. 8 years I've been a member of this gym. I've had problems with this place so now they LA Fitness saw the videos go viral, so they fired the manager. They fired 2 employees at this New Jersey gym. They were kicked out. The 2 guys that are and for me, I'll tell you, I'd be scared to death with all these stories about unarmed people being shot and calling the cops and all the cops standing around going, you can't film here. I go, listen, I know you don't like being filmed, but I can film here. I know you don't like it, but I mean, this is like real bravery, okay? And so they were kicked out, and everything that they recorded was shared on social media. Good. I'm happy to see that, because here's the other stories that will go alongside it, okay? Do you remember that there was a Kansas City firefighter who was charged with spitting on a 3-year-old in Kansas City in Overland Park at a Hooters, where a family was celebrating the 18th birthday of their son, their grandson, their brother, and there was like 25 family members. They were all in this Hooters celebrating this kid's 18th birthday. And so there was a 3-year-old also there with this 18-year-old boy, his father, his grandfather, bunch of his friends, about 25 people. I mean, the check there was like $240. I mean, it was a big party, 18-year-old birthday party. Okay, and so there was a grandpa there. His name is Ray Harris, and there was the father, everybody was there, and they were, celebrating. They had already ordered their chicken wings, and they were, getting ready to toast, birthday cake and toasting this kid who just turned 18. And they had a 3-year-old with them as part of their family. The 3-year-old got away from the grandpa and, toddled away, ran away, and the grandpa went after him. But before the grandpa could get there, the 3-year-old made it over to the bar area. And at the bar area, there was a firefighter, okay? And the firefighter decided that he would spit on this little 3-year-old and call him the N-word. And a woman who was sitting closer to the bar than the 25 people, having the party, she said to Grandpa Ray, she said, is that your son? He said, that's my grandson. He goes, well, she just said, I just want you to know that man at the bar spit on your 3-year-old and called him the N-word. And the grandpa, got the 3-year-old and then, returned him to his family and then walked back over to the bar and said, excuse me, but did you just call my adored grandchild, did you just spit on my adored grandchild? And the family saw what was going on, and so the great uncle that was also there to celebrate the 18-year-old's birthday, his name was Michael Mitchell, walked over there and said, hey, let's go outside. You need to breathe. This is bad. Don't get involved. You know what I mean? This guy, is obviously a straight up racist. He's raging and he's spitting at a little kid, and just let's go outside. Let's all go outside. So they go outside. The grandpa goes outside to catch his breath and to try and get himself together. The man, the firefighter's name is Terry Skeen. He's a 15-year veteran of the Kansas City Fire Department. He says this is his, this is his calling in life. He loves to put his life on the line for any Kansas citizen who needs his help. And yet there he is, spitting on a 3-year-old and calling a toddler, the N-word, okay? And so Grandpa Raymond was there to celebrate his grandson's 18th birthday, and the 18-year-old wanted to celebrate at Hooters with 25 relatives. And so he goes chasing after the 3-year-old, gets the 3-year-old, and the woman says, this man just spit on your grandchild. And so he goes over to talk to the firefighter, and the firefighter actually says to him, you need to get that effing, I'm not going to say it. He said, you need to get that effing girl and take her back to the other side where you came from. And Grandpa Ray says, he's a boy, but more to the point, did you spit on my grandson? And the firefighter says, F you, you N-word. I'll spit on you too. F you. I will shoot you. The firefighter, Mr. Skeen, was there with a friend, and the friend says he don't like kids of that kind to Grandpa Ray. So Grandpa Ray returns the child to his mom, and he was about to go back to the firefighter to resume his little talk, and that's when the relatives intervened, and they said, listen, you're very upset, you're angry, you're emotional, and they said, I'm going to take you outside. Let's go outside. Let's go into the parking lot. And the grandfather says, yes, I have to go into the parking lot. I have to let out my anger and frustration. And, his his brother keeps telling, it's okay. We're going to handle this. We're going to call the police. Okay? They were still outside taking some deep breaths when the police came. And the police were called on Grandpa Ray. The police were called on that family that were there to celebrate the 18-year-old's birthday, not on the firefighter who spit on a 3-year-old and called him the N-word.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Let me just first show you a few headlines from today, but also the recent past, just to illustrate what I'm about to lay out to you. Look at this headline, Associated Press today. Chobani Yogurt Company sues right-wing radio host Alex Jones. And it says because I claim Islamic migrants, quote, refugees are unvetted, which they are.
No, they're not.
And that 20% or more have TB. And because this guy promotes the importation of these people, I'm a liar, so they're suing me. They also say that he's been caught bringing in Islamicists who have now pled guilty to rape.
Oh, my God.
Well, let me then clarify or correct myself here. I'm not saying he consciously brought in people he thought were going to rape, but people he brought in and force-fed on America have now been implicated, indicted, and have pled guilty to that.
Oh, my God.
But here's what's even crazier. The owner of Chobani, who appeared out of nowhere in the late 1990s here in the United States, immigrated here in 1994, he is on the New York Federal Reserve. That's the New York Fed that under the 1913 Federal Reserve Act controls all the other regional banks in the United States. And Donald Trump is even having trouble removing the New York Fed.
Okay. See what I'm talking about? This crap that is spewed all over the internets, all over the freaking world by these crazy people. The Fox Newses, which is a vowel movement away from what it does to the news. The Alex Jones, the Rush Limbaughs, all this racist crap. First of all, I got to tell you, Chobani Yogurt did sue Alex Jones for saying that the man who owns Chobani Hamdi Ulukaya, who's been here for, 25 years and built himself a beautiful business making Greek yogurt, that he somehow was importing rapists and stuff. So Chobani's owner did sue Alex Jones, and Alex Jones did make this whole thing up out of whole cloth and settled out of court in Chobani's favor because Alex Jones finds it profitable to lie like this and then just pay the penalty on the back end just because he enjoys making money this way by getting crazy people to listen to him and believe that three boys, the story he's talking about, was not related to Chobani yogurt. These kids were too young to even have jobs. It was a story about three boys who were 14, 10, and 7, who assaulted a 5-year-old girl. That's the story. And he's accusing this man of hiring and not vetting. It makes no sense. But he did get sued, and he settled with Chobani in Chobani's favor, by the way. Chobani also employs 1,000 people. 1,000 people in Twin Falls. That's some good employment in Twin Falls. They support dairy farmers in Twin Falls. They support the people who grow the feed in Twin Falls. That's according to the Twin Falls mayor, Sean Beauregard. He says the region has been home to resettled refugees since the 1980s. Long before Chobani opened up its factory there in 2012. And Alex Jones decided that he was going to promote some racist hatred on his show against immigrants who make it big in this country and who therefore employ Americans, and some resettled refugees who came here in the 1980s and just start stoking the fire. And so they sued Alex Jones for defamation. Now, that's a hard case to win against a public figure. You have to prove that insane man knew he was lying when he was lying. Well, the reason why we knew he was lying when he was lying is because that AP story that he had set aside on his desk, you can still get it. And that story does not say anything that he says it does. And he actually ignored that the fact that there's been no increased refugee settlements in Twin Falls, Idaho, and that nothing he said was in that story. So he had the story right there and then decided to lie about it. So there's that, right? There's that. And now, of course, he's being sued by, I can't even tell you how many people now are suing him. I mean, the Parkland, he accused the wrong guy of being the shooter in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. You got the Sandy Hook families who have finally had it with him. They're suing him for defamation because they're getting threats. Because remember, Alex Jones' story about Sandy Hook was that this was the anti-gun, uber, anti-fascist crowd, the globalists. This was, sponsored by George Soros and whatever, crazy crap goes through this man's head, right? And so he said that it was anti-gun nuts that faked Sandy Hook in order to get stricter background checks and gun regulation. That's why he says Sandy Hook didn't happen. He says that, they were crisis actors, that those weren't really dead children. Well, the families of Sandy Hook have been threatened so often, and he won't stop saying it. And every time he says, well, I think maybe people did die, he reverts back to, but I saw the kids running around with their hands up in circles. It looked like a drill to me. Didn't look real. And so finally the parents have had it, and they're suing him. Chobani sued him. Obviously, they prevailed. A man who saw Heather Heyer in Charlottesville get killed by the white supremacists, he's suing Alex Jones because Alex Jones, said that this man who witnessed this, his life was upended when Alex Jones started attacking him as being, part of the deep state or part of George Soros's crowd, and that he filmed this, and that she was a crisis. Heather Heyer was a crisis. She's not really dead either. I mean, now I think you need to know that the crap that you listen to is fake. to the point where he would rather pay a settlement to the people he defames, to the people he threatens, to the people he hurts, to the people who end up getting death threats by his crazy sycophantic audience. I would rather you know that he's paying these fines, that he's paying these settlements, that he's a fraud, and he loves being a fraud. And I don't know if he's mentally stable or not. I honestly don't, but somebody needs to take that freaking microphone away from him.
All of the parents decided to come out and lie about their dead children.
I didn't say that.
What happened to the children?
I will sit there on the air and look at every position and play devil's advocate.
Was that devil's advocate? The whole thing is a giant hoax. The whole thing was fake.
Yes, because I remember even that day, I'll go back from memory, then saying, but then some of it looks like it's real. But then what do you do when they've got the kids going in circles in and out of the building with their hands up? I've watched the footage, and it looks like a drill.
Yesterday, Alex Jones responded to the lawsuit in a video message.
I believe Sandy Hook happened. And early on, I was being bullied by internet folks and others to say nobody died.
He was being bullied.
And when I wouldn't say nobody died in the debates, and then I would actually side with those that said that people did die, they would say that I was a government agent.
NBC's Megyn Kelly, host of Megyn Kelly Today, will have an exclusive interview with one of the parents suing Jones. She joins me now for a preview. This is the first civil lawsuit against Alex Jones in this matter. What do we know about why these parents are suing?
Because he won't let up. Neither he nor the people who work for him. This lawsuit is brought against InfoWars, and there's an employee named Owen Schroyer who doubled down on these controversial comments after one of the Newtown dads, one of the parents went on with Anderson Cooper, and one of the Newtown dads, Neil Heslin, came on with me. And Neil said to me that he held the body of his dead son in his hands and was making the point that he's had enough. He's had enough of Alex Jones and this nonsense about Sandy Hook never happening. And true to form, InfoWars doubled down in the wake of Anderson Cooper, in the wake of us, and went after the parents again. And Owen Schroyer is saying, oh, the bodies were never released to the parents, referring to a coroner's remark that he didn't require the parents to identify the bodies in person, but rather by photograph, which does not speak at all to whether the parents ever received the bodies back, which is, of course, what happened so that they could bury them.
I mean, honest to God, man, there is no low that is too low for these freaking people who are enriching themselves based on a large amount of seriously hateful people out there. I mean, the whole thing with, the Pizzagate story that he told. You had a guy in North Carolina literally drive his car all the way to Washington, D.C. to shoot up Comet Pizza and Ping Pong because Alex Jones told them that Hillary Clinton was running a pedophile ring out of this pizza place. You know, Alex Jones just lost custody of his children. I mean, I wonder why. This is like one of many lawsuits. It's the first lawsuit in the matter of Sandy Hook, but this Alex Jones is being sued all the time, by people who have been threatened by his audience members, the Comet Pizza, the Chobani guy, the guy that actually, saw Heather Heyer be killed by a white supremacist and filmed it, a Parkland guy who was not the shooter, who was called the shooter. His name was Marcel. I don't even want to say his last name, but he was accused by a woman on Alex Jones' show of being a CIA operative when a neo-Nazi slammed into Heather Heyer. And then, and they're suing, Alex Jones. They're suing InfoWars for over $1 million because he was identified as being a mass shooter, an ISIS member, Here's the report that the blog that Alex Jones posted. Reported Florida shooter dressed as communist supported ISIS because this kid Marcel was wearing a novelty T-shirt with a picture that says Communists Party, with a picture of Karl Marx wearing a lampshade on his head. right? No, and they're all suing. Everyone's suing. And all this man does is sit there all day. And Sean Hannity with his racist crap and Black Lives Don't Matter, Blue Lives Matter. And Trump, is tweeting about, what's his name? Not sending the California, not sending National Guard down there, and it's in California sanctuary cities. They're breeding. This is crazy. So yes, these incidents have gone through the roof. This hatred that has been not just made okay, but promoted by the President of the United States, literally promoted by him, tweeted by him, said out loud in speeches by him, started his campaign calling people rapists. Mexicans are rapists. They're not sending their best. Can you imagine the people that, win the visa lottery? The government is handpicking them, right? And they're not vetted and repeating all this. So this is what fills the head of a Kansas City firefighter who sits at the bar with his friend and thinks that the proper reaction to having the president of his choice, a sufficiently racist president, is to spit on a 3-year-old. And then when the grandpa says, "Did you just spit on my adored grandchild? Did you just do?" And the man explodes on grandpa and says, "You're an N-word and I'll shoot you." And the police get called, but the police get called against grandpa and his 25 family members who have just ordered $240 worth of food in Hooters to celebrate his grandson's 18th birthday. They were kicked out. Okay, the manager didn't kick out the firefighter who spit on a 3-year-old. They kicked out the grandfather. They kicked out the 18-year-old who was celebrating his birthday. All his friends, they were kicked out. And they were very scared that, they hadn't paid their bill. So they said, well, can we go back in and pay the bill? I don't want you to think that we're skipping out on the bill. We're not eating and dashing, he said. Grandpa said. And they didn't want him to go back in, but they did want him to pay his bill. So he had to give his phone number to one of the police officers so he could pay the bill. And before he could even get home, they said, "Oh, it's okay. The man that spit on you, he's a firefighter." He said, "It's definitely not okay. We don't want anybody to think because he has a badge he can get away with this. It's definitely not okay." You think about that. And there's more.
Now, Mexico has very tough policies. They can do whatever they want, which is the way it should be, to be honest. You're violating something very sacred. You're violating a border. Canada, very, very tough. Very, very tough. And Canada is very merit-based. You come into Canada, it's got to be based on merit. With us, it's a lottery system. Pick them out, a lottery system. You can imagine what those countries put into the system. They're not putting their good ones. And remember my opening remarks at Trump Tower when I opened. Everybody said, "Oh, he was so tough." And I used the word rape. And yesterday it came out where this journey coming up, women are raped at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
Okay, none of that is true. That is not happening, okay? It didn't happen. This is just this man just ginning up the hatred, ginning up the white supremacy in this country. And that is the side that Fox News takes, the side of the white supremacists. That is the side that Alex Jones takes, the side of the white supremacists, okay? This is why he attacked Chobani. He didn't like the man's last name. This is why he attacks, the Charlottesville. He stood up for the white supremacists and the Nazis that killed Heather Heyer and the kid that he misidentified as being the shooter at Parkland. I mean, he did that on purpose too. This has got, and like I said, this story about this grandpa and this family that went to Hooters to celebrate his grandson's 18th birthday. The reason why it's in the news again today, because this is not a news story. I got two other ones that are new, but this is not a new story. The Kansas City firefighter, Terry Skeen, 42 years old. No, this is in the newspaper again because he was restored back to being a firefighter. They put him back on the force. I swear to God. Here's another one for you, okay? Just had an arraignment yesterday of a guy named Jeffrey Ziegler. Or actually, he was arraigned on Friday last week. Why? And this is like a couple days, I guess, before the Starbucks thing happened. So a lot of people didn't hear about this. This is just bizarre. This one reminds me of Emmett Till, okay? This one involves a 14-year-old kid. A 14-year-old kid who overslept one morning and missed his school bus. And so he was trying to, trace the school bus's route on foot to get to high school, to get to his school. And he got lost. He couldn't figure out, where the bus turned. He made the wrong turn. He was in a neighborhood called Rochester Hills, Michigan. Okay? And he knocked on somebody's door and asked them for directions. Said that he had overslept and that he needed to get to school, and could they give him directions to Rochester High. The woman who answered the door started screaming at him. Just screaming. What are you doing? Why are you trying to break into my house? What's wrong? Because, the 14-year-old little black kid, right? Why are you trying to break into my house? What are you doing here? Why? Why are you trying to do this? And she starts screaming for her husband, The little kid is saying, I'm just trying to get directions to Rochester High. And he told the local TV station, WJBK, he said, and she kept yelling at me. And she kept screaming. And so a guy came downstairs. And then he grabbed a gun. Yeah. And I started to run. And that's when I heard the gunshot. This is a little kid. His name's Brennan Walker. He's 14 years old. When he saw the gun, he started to run away. He ran away. This 53-year-old white man who was also a firefighter in suburban Detroit grabs his gun and starts shooting at this little kid. The kid ran away. He wasn't hurt, thank God. He hid and he cried. This is at 8:20 in the morning. 8:20 in the morning. This woman in the house called 911, and she reported that her husband chased a black male who tried to break into our house. The county sheriff in this case, who responded to this and found this 14-year-old hiding and crying, said, all right, well, we'll have to investigate this. And so this thing got investigated, and it turns out that this Mr. Ziegler guy, he tells a judge named Judge Julie Nicholson via a video link from the county jail on Friday, according to the Associated Press. He said, I was in bed yesterday morning. My wife came screaming and crying. There's a lot more to the story than what's being told. I believe this will come out in court. So check this out. This man has a home security system, this firefighter in Rochester, Michigan. He's got a home security system that actually videotapes his front door. And so the court looked at the videotape, and it backs up exactly what Brennan Walker, the teenager, said happened. And they also showed the video to Brennan Walker's mother, Lisa. Lisa tried to be so open-minded about this shooting at her son thing. She said, I didn't want to believe the shooting was racially motivated. I didn't want to believe it. But she looked at the video and she said, while I was watching the tape, you could hear the wife say, why did these people choose my house? And all this 14-year-old was doing was knocking on the door to ask for directions to the high school. So now The county sheriff, Michael Bouchard, he gave a statement. He said, I feel so bad for this mom and young man, and I'm incredibly angry at this disturbing event in our county, state, and country. We'll seek all applicable charges. There is no world where this is acceptable, except apparently in Trump world. And then the mayor, Brian Barnett, said, I am personally sickened by the initial reports, and they suggest behavior completely unacceptable and inconsistent with the character and values of our community. So when Mr. Ziegler was arraigned on Friday, they set his bond at $50,000. He will go back to court on April the 24th. We will follow this thing. Okay. This is like the same situation that happened in Dearborn Heights in Michigan. Ted Waffer, a white homeowner, killed a 19-year-old girl, a black woman, who pounded on his door because she had had a car accident and needed medical help. He said he felt threatened because she was going to break into his house. She was going to break in. This girl was like, in a car wreck. He was convicted of second-degree murder. He's serving now 17 years in prison, So that's the happy ending to that one. And then you have the Starbucks thing where the two men who were kicked out of Starbucks, they were waiting for two people to come to have a business meeting. So they're speaking up now, and they want everybody to know that this is part of daily life for many people of color, especially black being the color, and that every single moment in their life they could face something like that. It could just go all wrong for no reason. And they know that. And either it's going to end in humiliation like the guy at the LA Fitness and Sea Caucus, or it could go really horribly wrong and someone could spit on your grandchild and then the police are called on you and you're completely humiliated and you're the person that can't get justice. So it's the same, this is why the Starbucks story is the most important thing that I read today, because research shows that in this country, retail racism, or shopping while black, or sitting in a restaurant waiting for a friend while black, or knocking on somebody's door when you're lost, or when you need medical help because you just, somebody slammed into your car and you just, don't have your cell phone on you and you need somebody to call 911. It could all go horribly wrong. It's very prevalent. Don't you remember, even Oprah? Remember Oprah? Oprah went to France. She went to Paris. Remember in 2003, she wanted an Hermes bag. Why, Oprah? I have no idea. It's the ugliest that Birkin bag. Just gag. Just really, it's a piece of luggage. $42,000 for a pocketbook, okay? It's just mind-blowing. But she wanted one, and she's a billionaire. So she went into the Hermes in Paris, and they turned her away. Remember, they wouldn't let her in the store. They wouldn't let Oprah in the store. And Barack Obama, remember when Barack Obama spoke from the White House after George Zimmerman was acquitted for killing Trayvon Martin? And he told all his story. Obama was being followed in stores. Obama used to walk down the street. People would cross the street. They'd lock their doors. And, it wasn't shocking or surprising for black folks. It's not shocking and surprising to me. What is shocking and surprising to me is the resurgence that this white supremacy has made because the president thinks that some Nazis are very fine people. And just as a capper to today's lovely stories, and this is just one day of reading local newspapers. That's all this is. One day. In Auburn, Michigan, you got a bunch of lunatics having, their third day of flag waving, their third day of flying the Confederate flag, insisting it's a country thing. What the hell does that mean? It's a country thing. Yeah, the Confederacy, first of all, this was not their flag. This was the Confederate Army's flag. Okay, that's it. This flag is the flag of a losing attempt to overthrow the government of the United States in order to protect people's right to own human beings. That's what this flag is. It's a loser's. I mean, and they fly this flag like they go, well, you know, we have a right to fly the flag. We have a, and this is a country thing. No, this is a hate thing. This is a hate thing. You lost, just like the Nazis lost. Get over it. Move on already. Stop flying this losing flag and pissing off the whole freaking neighborhood.
Trucks bearing Confederate flags here.
Look, I mean.
Flags here.
Oh my God.
Some other iconography.
Iconography. That iconography is a Trump "Make America Great Again" flag. That is the iconography. I mean, this has got. It's just unbelievable. And there was no racial tension in Auburn, Michigan. There just wasn't. And now all of a sudden there is, because these morons don't understand that they are on the wrong side of history. That flag is a flag that gave permission for people to beat and lynch and murder and hobble and otherwise brutalize human beings that they desired to own, even though the real Americans, the real United States, fought for the Union to remain together against you people that wanted to own other people. It was one of the bloodiest wars ever. Definitely the bloodiest war here. 600,000 dead. They died for a failed ideology. It was called racism, you see. And just as the capper on the day, I want you to know that Chris Kobach, that man that was supposed to, well, he did. He put together the voting commission to look for this massive voter fraud, you know, black people voting and immigrants voting that weren't. Yeah, well, he was just held in contempt of court. It's not the first time Chris Kobach was held in contempt of court, but he was just held in contempt of court because he was supposed to send postcards out to 18,000 voters who he wouldn't issue voter registration cards to so they could vote in 2018. He neglected to do that. So the court held him in contempt for failing to do that. They haven't even ruled on the merit of the case that Chris Kobach is the defendant in. That law hasn't even been, Chris Kobach is going to be on the wrong side of that because they have to litigate the 1993 Voter Registration Act, or you know it as motor voter, that says that you can go to the, with your driver's license and you can get registered to vote. Yeah, Chris Kobach won't let that law be that law in Kansas. That's why he's on trial. He was only held in contempt for failing to comply with the court's order to send out postcards ahead of 2018 to tell these 18,000 people that he refused to issue registration cards to because they wouldn't prove their citizenship. They wouldn't do it. It wasn't their requirement. And he failed to do it.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
Stop supporting Trump. And it's the opposite of what my ex-wife says. She says, oh, the system took the kids away from me. No, you got the kids back because of who I was part of the time. And then they sit there and they're like, if you just turn against Trump, things will be better. But he was doing good, and that's what makes it so bad. Oh, and that's what makes it so bad. If he'd have been a piece of crap from the beginning, it would be so bad.
Wow.
But we made so many sacrifices. And now he's crapping all over us. It makes me sick.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. These are the people that you trust to form your worldview. Really, these are the people you go to. They have all of them. All of them are thugs. I mean, all of them. They pay money out in order to continue, raking in money from unsuspecting lunatics out there. I mean, this is just insane. President's doing the same damn thing. Let me tell you something. This all started today only because last night I saw a story about Chris Kobach, who disenfranchised 18,000 voters. Yeah, 18,000 voters in freaking Kansas because he wanted those 18,000 voters to prove to him that they were citizens. And they didn't have to do that because since 1993, when we have the motor voter bill, all you have to do is go to DMV and you have a driver's license, you're allowed to get registered to vote. And he was ordered by the court to send out postcards to these people he refused to register to let them know that they could vote in November. It was all voter suppression. And who does Trump pick to lead his voter fraud commission? Chris Kobach, one of the biggest suppressors of the vote of minority people that's ever come down the pike. This entire administration is practicing this overt, it's not even covert anymore, this overt racism. It's not dog whistles, it's go get them. Go get them. Beat them up, treat them rough. Don't protect their heads when you put them in a car. Brown people are rapists. Don't forget that Salvadorans, they're all MS-13. That Chobani yogurt, they started this farm for refugee rapists, and they're bringing them. And they all get sued. They all get sued because they're all freaking defaming people, lying. But the real world consequence is when you cannot vote because you have a racist who's in charge of your state who refuses to register you to vote him out. Oh my God. That's how this whole thing started. That's how it all started. And it's just like somebody sent me their local newspaper, actually. Somebody sent me a very nice letter today, and their local newspaper, here it is, they thought, if you read this, you won't even believe what we're up against. It's the Bluefield Daily Telegraph from West Virginia. And he said to me, you tell everybody to read a newspaper. Well, I'm going to send you my newspaper. Take a gander at it, and you'll see what we're up against. And, of course, it says, Heartland, solid for Trump policies, not the chaos. And it talks about how there's no doubt that they all support Trump and they stand about, there's no doubt about Ed Gilgee of Princeton talks about his alma mater, West Virginia University. He leaves no doubt where he stands. He's a proud graduate and a former member of the university's prestigious band. He loves Trump, and, nobody's going to tell. Oh, my God. So this is what you're up against. That's why I'm telling you, when I say read a newspaper, what I'm talking about is at least USA Today, if you live in the hinterlands, okay? At least if you're in just USA Today. You could get a subscription, to the New York Times online. You could get a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. They do charge to read them, but you can get the deal like 99 cents for the year or something like that. I think it's a small price to pay to get the garbage out of your head. Because it does become very disorienting. You hear the president say something and you kind of want to believe him because he's the president, but he's full of duty. He is dividing this country, tearing it apart. And everybody he hires is going to, you know who he's thinking about hiring today? Don't even get me started. He's thinking about hiring Rudy Giuliani. And in a weird way, it ties into the rest of what I have to say today. And it's very simple. Turns out that I think I know what Michael Cohen is under investigation for in New York State, okay? Federal crimes, the Southern District of New York, member, because Mueller is doing this investigation, and he's coming across all these crimes. And some of the crimes he's coming across are part of what he's looking into with regard to a conspiracy to conspire with, foreign adversaries, maybe for loans, maybe for money laundering, maybe he owed favor. That's his wheelhouse, okay? And then he's coming across these other crimes that don't fit into his investigation. And so he's passing them to other jurisdictions where he's come across crimes. I think the crime that he came across with Michael Cohen has to do with his taxi company and some dirty business he did with mobsters and things like that. But especially with why it's centering around Stormy Daniels, why it's centering around, as you probably know, that Michael Cohen settled he withdrew a whole bunch of lawsuits. He was suing BuzzFeed for printing the dossier that said that he had been to Prague. So he was suing them. He was suing Fusion GPS for creating the dossier that said that he had gone to Prague. Oh, he dropped those lawsuits. Those lawsuits are gone. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Pecker, most unfortunate name in all of publishing, Mr. Peckerhead, over at the National Enquirer, he frees Karen McDougal from her contract. All of a sudden, just frees her. Know why? Michael Cohen can't go through discovery. Michael Cohen, now that the feds have his documents and his phone calls and have discussions of him in emails and in actual recorded phone calls, talking to, and what a small world it is, Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal, the other Playboy model that got pregnant from Elliot Briotti, the vice chair of the Republican National Committee, all ended up with the same lawyer, Keith Davidson. They all ended up with the same lawyer. Isn't that something? Now, what's really fascinating is Karen McDougal was not suing Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. Oh, no. She was suing the National Enquirer to get released from a catch and kill contract that she signed, which said we would promote her health column and we would put her on the front page and we would do all kinds of promotion for her. In exchange, we'll pay her $150,000, but she's going to sign that this story is exclusively the National Enquirer story. She can't give it to anybody else. And if she does, $1 million every time she does. Right? So she thought it was controlling her whole life already. She wanted out of this contract. And so they amended it. They amended her contract so she could talk to Anderson Cooper the other night. Remember that? Yeah. Well, now all of a sudden they said, you know what? We're dropping any claim against you for talking to any. You know what? Just go about your business. We keep the $150,000. We don't even want it back. They did say if you sell your story again in the next year, you have to pay us the first $75,000. And for some reason, her lawyer agreed to this. But okay, she's happy. That's all that counts, right? It turns out Michael Cohen calls Keith Davidson, her lawyer, not now. She's fired Keith Davidson, as has Stormy Daniels for Michael Avenatti, right? But they all had the same lawyer for a little while. Isn't it interesting that Karen McDougal was never suing Donald Trump? She loved Donald Trump. She told Anderson Cooper she was actually in love with Donald Trump. She really was, which I find to be the most humiliating sentence you could ever say out loud on the TV. However, she loved him, and she said so on the TV. She never sued Donald Trump for anything. And isn't it interesting that Michael Cohen called her lawyer, Keith Davidson, Michael Cohen called her lawyer, Keith Davidson, to say, you know, good job, well done, when they silenced her. Because Donald Trump is denying that he ever had an affair with her, and Donald Trump is denying that he ever had an affair with Stormy Daniels. And obviously, Michael Cohen just likes to pay out of his own pocket, you know, $130,000 to women who, have never slept with Donald Trump. No, it turns out that when you go seek legal counsel around any issue that has to do with Donald Trump, you're going to end up being represented by, or you would have before Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels, you would have been referred to, you would have ended up in Keith Davidson's office, and Keith Davidson would, be tipped off by Michael Cohen. There's another woman. Why don't you go get her, and we'll deal with it. And it looks like to me, I'm alleging this, I can't prove it. It looks like to me that Keith Davidson was the attorney for every single person who ever made a claim against Donald Trump for sexual, claims that, and it wasn't even unwanted. It was an affair or wanting to sell their story or whatever. So it looks to me like Cohen might get women's names. You know, he hears it from the National Enquirer, from Mr. Pecker, or he hears it from, the In Touch magazine. You know, somebody calls. And they say to Michael Cohen, do you know that this woman is claiming that she slept with Donald Trump? Any comment? And he gets on the phone and he calls Keith Davidson. And he says, Keith, represent her. The settlement will be done before she even files the case. See what I mean? I think that's why they're looking at Stormy Daniels. I think that's why Michael Avenatti is saying that he's been very careful not to talk about Keith Davidson, but Keith Davidson is a tool.
But, you know, I've been very careful in what I've said about Keith Davidson, Anderson, over the last few weeks. But I'm going to say this. Keith Davidson is an absolute tool. He is an absolute tool. And I'm going to say it on national television tonight because what he has done by giving this interview is really unheard of in the legal profession. For him to go out and comment on two matters, one for McDougal and one for my client, after he was terminated in both cases, all in an effort, I guess, to get his name out there or his face on television, is really outrageous. And it's unethical, and there's going to be serious consequences that result from it.
Okay, so this is the interview he's talking about. I'm not going to play you the whole thing. I'm just going to play you a little snippet where Keith Davidson gets a call from Michael Cohen. Yeah. And Michael Cohen recommends to Keith Davidson a client, and that client is Stormy Daniels.
Do you believe what Stormy Daniels has said about the sexual encounter with Mr. Trump?
You know, I believe my client.
Oh, my God.
And Karen McDougal?
Yes.
For the first time, Davidson is speaking exclusively to CNN, saying he is constrained by attorney-client privilege, but still giving new details about how the deals came about. Stormy Daniels' confidentiality deal, signed just days before the election, started with a phone call from Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen.
Oh. And Michael Cohen calls you up and says what about Stormy Daniels?
He says, I'm hearing rumblings out there that, you know, the press is poking around about Stormy Daniels. Do you have any information on that?
Isn't that something? Isn't that something? And now, you know, we understand that Rudy Giuliani somehow is involved in this New York FBI story about Anthony Weiner's computer and how they haven't started. And he's going to join the legal team. They're floating his name to join the Trump legal team. Do you see how corrupt this is? You thought you were draining the swamp, and there you are supporting a man covered in leeches. This is the sickest administration, and the only reason why it gets over on people is because it's sufficiently racist enough. This country is literally being torn apart on every level you could possibly imagine.
CNN has learned tonight that when the FBI raided Michael Cohen's office, his apartment, and his hotel room, they seized audio recordings between Cohen and Keith Davidson. Davidson, you might remember, was Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal's first lawyer. He's the guy who negotiated their hush money, and of course, he no longer represents either one of them. The recordings could prove really valuable to the government's investigation of.
Yeah. That is what's going on. That is why they raided his office, and they knew that you know, if they subpoenaed him for documents regarding Keith Davidson, he'd destroy them, and that there were phone calls in that office. That's why they did the heavy-handed tactic. That's why they went in there. So now Trump's all freaked out because he's about to get popped as being involved in a, well, at least his lawyer is involved in a corrupt conspiracy to defraud these women. Out of their, you know, their stories, out of their right to, you know, be, and the campaign, listen, the campaign finance violations, those are going to be charged. There's no question those will be charged. But those are like usually civil fines. I'm telling you, the Federal Election Commission is the toothless wonder. So there's no way they would storm into Michael Cohen's office for campaign finance violations. That is not why they went there. Oh, this is such a sick thing. And by the way, it just came out. Washington Post is reporting that Rudy Giuliani is going to join the Trump legal team and that they have been in conversations about it since, like 2 weeks ago. And he formalized his decision over dinner last week at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. So Rudy Giuliani is going to get to investigate Rudy Giuliani. Just like Michael Cohen has a protection lawyer out there to go greet these women and bring the case to a close before they even file one piece of paper. Oh, my God. Now you know why Michael Avenatti is so freaking, adamant about his case. Jesus, these are disgusting human beings. His favorite word is disgrace. He's more than a disgrace. He's like the spit on the belly of a snake, man. That's how worthless this whole crew is. Tearing us apart. And these supporters of his, oh my God, Alex Jones having a nervous breakdown because, I supported him. I made so many sacrifices for him, and now he's got him by Syria. I hate him. He's been bamboozled by the con man. They're all con men. All of them, and they flock together like birds of a feather do. Rudy Giuliani's getting divorced from his third wife right now. Perfect. All right, Cindy in Chicago.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Thanks for having me. It's been 15 years of listening to you. So
Oh,
I'm nervous.
wow. Oh, my God. Oh, here. Oh.
There it is. I can't believe it. I really can't. So I guess I want to thank you for talking about race. And ever since Trayvon, you've really been on top of this. And around that time, my son was just turning 1, and my son is black. And it's just, I can't believe how far we're going backwards, and it's just really scary raising them up. That's all.
How old is he now?
He's only 5. He's going to be 6 in June.
That's all it's been? It's only been 5 years? Oh, my God. Doesn't it seem like forever that we've been fighting this fight?
Oh, yeah.
Holy
He
crap.
was born, and I was like, it's Obama. And then, what do you tell him? Like, the worst president, the worst man in the world is president, and he hates you? I was like, did you ever think you would have to tell your kids like that,
You just have to tell them, look, in a democracy, people make mistakes, and and that they chose wrong. They chose the wrong guy. You could tell them, some lovely story. You could tell them, well, listen, back in the day when, they were killing all the Jews, we got very lucky. We got FDR. He was a wonderful president, and at a very terrible time when we could have bought into all this, we had a really great man. This time, we're not so lucky. So I got to talk to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways. You just have to pepper it in all the time, but you're right on, too, and just providing a historical example of something positive.
I'm just so, and I'm just so sick of it. And it cycles around, and it cycles around, and it's all because of cultural illiteracy. That is really, and they exploit it. They exploit the most illiterate among us. They exploit the people who can't figure their way out of a paper bag, and they
trust me.
Right?
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana, and Dad. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And they just weasel into their heads that your lot in life is because of them, whoever they are. And they just play this endless loop in their people's heads, and they can't figure out why the factories moved, and they can't figure out that automation actually came here and put them out of a job, and that nobody ever stepped forward and said, we're going to retrain you for jobs of the future. We're going to make you into graphic designers and software experts, and you're going to learn to write code. They said, hell no, we want to go back to the salt mines, and they saw this opportunity to put junk into their heads while they were idle, and it works. It works. You appeal to the lowest common denominator, and you can get elected.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems like, well, to get Obama, we somehow had to be slammed down.
And if I hear that one more time, oh, well, we had a black president, so it's post-racial now. It's post-racial. Meanwhile, I just showed you.
More racial than ever before. It's
this guy
bias,
just
too.
disenfranchised 18,000 people because he wanted them to bear the burden of proving their citizenship, and they said, we don't have to.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that number when you said that.
18,000.
That's just sick.
And then we have a sick disgrace of a human being saying, hey, Chris,
God,
you're going to go hunt for all this voter fraud.
Yeah, you know what I meant to tell you? And you're like the only person who's going to get it. Everyone else thinks I'm crazy. I worked in Kenosha, Wisconsin on Election Day.
Yeah.
And the first door me and my friend knock on, I've been knocking doors up with him for years anyway, is a black woman. We're like, yeah, you know, this is going to be great, no problem. And she was spooked, and she gave us this look, and she's like, I'm not voting for that lady or whatever. And it was just so weird. I can't even put my finger on it. But then when you start talking about the dark ads and the micro-targeting in Wisconsin and Facebook, I was like, I think she was one of those people who was micro-targeted.
Yeah, definitely.
And you really connected the dots on that, you know, just like you do on racism.
It's so easy to appeal to.
It was like Stepford Wife creepy.
It is Stepford Wife creepy. It's just a new way of suppressing the vote, but the old way works too. But the new way is on top of that. Honest to God, I wish it was November now. I just want to go. I just want to go and vote like hard. You know what I mean?
It was a shit show. It was a black neighborhood, and people didn't know the rules, and the rules had changed, and there was so much confusion, and it was sad.
It is
was
sad.
Weird.
It is sad. It's really sad, and it's driving me crazy. I mean, I
know.
So, before I die, I want to see the 21st century.
Yeah, I want to see full voter participation or something like that.
Something like that would be good over here, you know? I mean, and
something to be proud of.
Something to be proud of would be good in my lifetime. Meanwhile, I haven't seen anything, you know? We had a good economy during Clinton, and all they kept trying to do was impeach him. Then I did live to see Obama, thank God, you know? It was a great thing, but I'm telling you, all the black women in my audience, Cindy, do you remember all the black women in my audience going, I don't know, Randy. This is going to backfire. You'll see.
I got Carol or someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Carol. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carol Marie. Yeah. All these women. I mean, you know.
They knew.
They knew. They felt it. They were smart. They were educated women.
I was always scared he was going to be assassinated.
Yeah. Everybody was. I was too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was because those women said so.
Anyway, we'll get lucky. You'll see.
Yeah.
I this whole life of mine has not been for nothing. So.
No, you're really not going to sense to a lot of people, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks for calling me.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay, Cindy. Bye. All right, Michael and Boca.
Randy, this is a lot.
It is a lot.
That list you gave, that is off the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And I have two basic questions. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. I mean, what you were describing was hysteria from seeing black people. Somebody knocking on your damn door.
I know.
That's hysteria, man.
Not just some people. A 14-year-old boy who's lost.
Right, and the spitting on the kid, the baby boy.
Oh, my God. And then yelling at Grandpa. And when Grandpa has the temerity to walk over calmly and say, I'm sorry, did you just spit on my adored grandchild? F you, N-word. I'll shoot you.
Randy, that's hysteria. So my question is this. Where do you live, or what are you putting in your head where the sight of black people trigger you to that?
Well,
I mean, these are kamikaze racists. This
is why I keep showing clips of Alex Jones today also, not just because he's racist and not just because he roots for the white supremacists and not just because he'll take the side of, a shooter over dead children, not just because of all the conspiracy and the I play him because these are the unstable people that have large platforms from which to preach hatred and fear and hopelessness and you're being invaded, you're being taken over. You know, you better do something. Take the gun and drive to Washington and shoot up Comet Pizza Parlor, you know.
And Randy, why does that see, this is deep shit. Why does, like, you can't tell me that I'm here in Boca. These white people are coming to get you, Michael. You better watch out. Your neighbors, they're out to get you. When you drive down Glades, you better duck while you drive. You can't put that shit in my head because that's not my reality. No matter how much you say it, it's still not my reality when I open my eyes. I don't deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
So why does it work on people who don't have any interaction with black people.
I suspect it's because they feel that they have been humiliated in life, that life has been a giant, endless humiliation. They wake up every morning, they have no place to go, there's no decent job, or the job that they have is so poor that they have to have another one after that and another one after that. They're trying their best, and they don't know why it's like this. And they feel humiliated, and they need, a humiliated man is a dangerous thing. Yeah. Okay, and so they need to take it out on somebody. And you've got leadership in this country that is not only telling them it's the brown people, it's the black people, but giving them permission to do it, saying you are a very fine person, go fly the Nazi flag.
So they've not made the connection.
To their own humiliation in life?
Right,
No.
Right. That over the past 50 years.
Michael, it's a self-awareness that they don't have. It's what I've come up with the term cultural illiteracy, to explain it. But it has much more to do with a man who is humiliated, who has lost his identity, who may have, identified as a factory worker and loved his $25 an hour and his pension and all. And it's all been taken away from him by Republicans. But he can't face that everything he believed in caused his own humiliation, so he needs to blame it on somebody else.
Yeah, that's where I was going. The reality is the decisions that they've made politically in their lives for the past 50 years have brought them here where they walk outside like you described, and the shit still looks like it looked in 1964.
Yes.
But then they look over at Atlanta, and it's Wakanda.
It's fabulous.
And they don't know how to deal with that reality. You're right, Randy. They don't know how to cope with that.
They can't cope with it, and they can't look at their own. They can't be so self-aware that they say, you know what, I did this. I've been voting against my own best interest for a really long time, and I was doing it because I aspired to be wealthy. One day I wanted those tax cuts. I wanted to be part of the top 1%. I'm never going to get there, but at least I'm white.
Right.
I keep saying this last few days because that's all that's left to tell them. That's all that's left.
All they have.
Yeah.
They can see
the
progressing black middle class, Randy, and that's all they have left.
I know, and I'm on a freaking mission to change one mind, just one every day, okay? That's all I want to do is just tell one person who thinks like this, all you need to do is look at nothing's changed and you live in a red state and you keep voting for these people over and over again. And this time maybe you thought, well, she'll be under investigation, nothing will get done. Look at it. Look at it now. Look at what's going on here. Now,
this was your hands. Your hands did this.
Yes.
Exactly, Randy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So that's where we are, Michael.
Goodness.
Yeah,
Randy, is the bar so high, though, for that demographic to be called racist that they have to tell us that they're racist?
Yeah.
They have to tell us?
Yeah.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
God.
Your investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. A number of surrogates like Rudy Giuliani claimed to have a pipeline to the FBI. He boasted that, and I quote, numerous agents talked to him all the time, close quote, regarding the investigation. He even said that he had insinuated he had advance warning about the emails described in your October letter. Former FBI agent Jim Kallstrom made similar claims.
Is he going to join the legal team too?
Now, either they're lying or there's a serious problem within the Bureau. Did anybody in the FBI during this 2016 campaign have contact with Rudy Giuliani about the Clinton investigation?
I don't know yet. But if I find out that people were leaking information about our investigations, whether to reporters or to private parties, there'll be severe consequences.
Did you know of anything from Jim Kallstrom?
Same answer.
Maybe James Kallstrom will join the Trump legal team, too, to investigate themselves. Oh, my God. That's why the Stormy Daniels story is now very important to me, Okay, it was always important because she was strong and she was not going away, and she was taking a lot of insults and a lot of haters and a lot of Twitter wars and things like telling her how she's too old, her boobs are too big, her boobs are too small, she's too fat, she's too skinny, whatever it was, and she's like, I'm not going anywhere because this is a woman scorned by an inside job, okay, by trusting a lawyer who was feeding her literally to Trump's lawyer. Literally. That is so sad. And now they got the phone call. That's why she was there the other day in court when Michael Cohen, idiot boy, brought a proceeding to bear. Okay, he actually petitioned the court. He's the one that asked for that hearing the other day, that proceeding the other day in front of Judge Kimball Wood, asking if he could go through all his own documents and all his own phone calls to make sure that none of his clients would be exposed, by virtue of piercing the attorney-client privilege. Oh, pierce this. So she says to him, how many clients do you have? He says 10. Turns out that 7 of them, he's doing business consulting, no lawyering, no legal work. And there's only 3. And they've all moved on. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to throw you under the bus, Michael. I mean, when Roy Cohen, who was his hero, Roy Cohen was Donald Trump's entree into crooked, dirty mob business in New York. And this was his hero, Michael. And what an abortion that relationship turned into. It was an abortion, Michael, an abortion. Donald Trump had it killed, and it was a son, Michael, something evil and unholy, because all this has got to end, right? So when Roy Cohen developed HIV, when he got sick, Donald Trump threw him he kicked him to the curb. He just walked away from Roy Cohen. Had nothing to do with it. Roy Cohen was facing disbarment. Roy Cohen was disbarred, and I think 5 weeks after he was disbarred, he died. He died. And his best friend, his best client, just had nothing to do with him. And that's what's going to happen to you. Ugh. And they deserve it. This whole group, this whole crowd. Rick in Los Angeles.
Hey, Randy.
Yep.
It's amazing what's going on.
What a mess.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to that case of the Kansas City firefighter spitting
on a 3-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Grandpa going to fetch his child, brings the child back to Mom, and then walks over calmly and says to firefighter, "Did you just spit on my adored grandson?"
Yeah.
And firefighter says, "F you, N-word, I'll shoot you." And firefighter's friend says he doesn't like kids of that kind.
Mm-hmm.
And he still keeps it together. And he goes...
And they rehired him. They rehired their firefighter.
He's back on the firefighting team. He's going to put his life on the line for every Kansas citizen who needs him except for black ones.
Black, yeah, except for the blahs,
yes.
Or whatever he wants.
Yeah, his lawyer is Tom Bath. He said his client's side of the story will all come out at the trial. He's pleading not guilty. He's back on the job. He was incorrectly suspended.
Was he charged with like criminal battery and assault or what?
I don't know what the charges are.
That's an unlawful touching.
Yes, it's battery.
Hit at somebody or throw something at him or whatever.
Yes, it's battery, assault, and disorderly conduct.
And he's back on the force.
Back on the force.
What? I mean, who's in charge of this outfit, Randy? It's like, give me a break. I mean, at the very least, he should be suspended pending the, the outcome of the trial.
Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely nuts. Suspended without pay as well, I think, is what he should be.
Well, he's back on the force, receiving his pay, and he's performing his duties for the community.
Well, I just hope that that the family hires a really good civil rights attorney and sues the hell out of everybody, because it's just outrageous, And unfortunately,
this is criminal, though. This is more than a civil suit. This is a criminal.
Oh, it is
a criminal case, and yeah.
Yeah, it's both, though. I mean, there's also
it is both. There's
civil
there's civil rights violations of a 3-year-old. You know?
Yeah, give me a break. I mean,
and of an elderly gentleman, a grandpa, who kept his stuff together. I mean, the bravery, the courage, the dignity, the integrity you have to have kept it together. And to know that, the family came over and said, all right, let's go outside. He said, I need to go outside. I have to catch my breath. I cannot believe what just happened here. Come on, let's go outside. Let's breathe. Let's regroup. Let's stay calm. And then the police come and they go, oh, thank God the police are here. No, they're here for you, Grandpa.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of country have we become? Have we... have a
it's pretty stormtroopery around, certain parts.
I mean, are they going to start to require minorities to start wearing certain types of clothing, or
listen,
certain symbols on their clothing?
Hey, Rick, if you're asking me these questions, then it's already gone too far. You understand? So
of course.
It's our job not to go there. It's our job to realize we're very close to being there. It's our job to say enough is enough. It's our job to say this has got to stop. Just like Obama used to say, enough.
Yeah.
Just enough. I've had it up to here. We all want to live in the 21st century. Okay? This has all got to end. This is evil and unholy, and it all has to end, Michael.
Yeah, and we got to cut the head of the snake off, which is basically Trump. That's he's got to go.
Well, I just hope to God that the system so far, it's slow, it's methodical, it takes its time because it gets it right usually in white collar situations, and that is where we are. I just hope to God that the system is still able to function and that we can still count on Congress to do something once, we learn that this is the most corrupt man that's ever occupied the White House in the history of the United States. And we've had, we had a guy who hired plumbers to break into, the Watergate, office complex and steal. But we've never seen this. And we've never seen lawyers calling other lawyers to represent people they hear rumblings about so that they could feed them into the Trump pipeline and squash them. I've never seen anything like this. This is like, it's really like the mob. It really is like I mean,
it's sort of like a RICO conspiracy. Randy.
Well, you know what? You should check. You should check for people who don't know what RICO is. Yesterday, yesterday in the homework section of RandiRhodes.com, and it doesn't cost you anything to go read the homework, but go to RandiRhodes.com, click on homework. You'll see it at the top. Okay, and go to yesterday's homework. There's a whole section there of all the charges that Trump could be facing and an explanation from a very, very astute white-collar criminal lawyer who outlines how they could charge RICO and why, what they would need to have to charge RICO, how they could charge corrupt, obstruction with corrupt intent. It's all there. It's all there, all the different things. And I meant to do the show about it yesterday, but I get so disgusted with this crazy racial stuff because this is stuff that's happening every day to us, okay? It's not happening in the White House, and it's not happening on far-flung places, and it's not bombing Syria, which didn't affect anybody's life, unfortunately, on Friday night. You know what I mean? This is crap that people are turning up dead. Little kids are getting spit on. Little kids are getting shot at. 14-year-olds are asking directions. A woman has a car crash. She ends up dead because she needs somebody to call 911 for her. You got girls that go into Applebee's, and they're attacked. I saw this crazy white grandma. I didn't even get to these stories, but I saw this crazy white grandma punch a uniformed troop. Okay, these girls were in the Army, and they were wearing their camouflage. They were wearing their uniforms, their fatigues. And they were in, I don't know if it was an Applebee's or a Chili's, whatever. Some grandma was pissed off that they got her parking space that she swears she was waiting for in the parking lot.
Oh, geez.
So, and these girls were black, and so the grandma was white, and she goes in there, and she punches this black girl in uniform. Turns out this black girl in uniform was pregnant.
Oh, my God.
I'm telling you, it won't stop, and it's breaking my heart.
Yeah, and then these two young African Americans at Starbucks in Philly. It's like
you never know which stories are going to get traction, and I'm just so glad that one did because it's on videotape. But and so is the girls in uniform. The pregnant woman in uniform got decked by some 60-year-old, freaking, I don't know, some 60-year-olds out there. They look like they're 80. I don't get it.
Yeah, where did that happen?
Well,
again?
My father used to say, "You have the face you deserve by the time you're 40."
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, it's like if you walk around angry, it ages you. Randy.
It does.
I mean, it really does.
Yeah, and if you're swimming in, substances, it also dehydrates, and you get all wrinkly like a shoe. You start to look like a pocketbook.
Exactly. Well, hey, everybody, subscribe to the damn podcast.
Please, we do need help right now. We do. We need. Thank you very much for calling it. We do need help right now. I'm trying to be calm and cool about it, but it's very difficult for me to look at it every day, especially after all these freaking bills, the new website, all the tax bill, all. We need help right now. We just do, and I hate to ask, and you know that I do, but I'm asking. Sharon in Oregon.
Hi.
Hi.
Hold on. I had you on speaker because I was waiting so long.
I know.
This fireman has got me so pissed.
He's the one that resonates with you. Okay.
He's just an ugly American.
Yeah, he is an ugly
part
American.
of this. He is this part of ugly Americans, and we got to start labeling this guy. And I want to put this guy's picture all over the internet and show everybody who he is and what kind of a person he is.
Mm-hmm.
To spit on a baby?
A baby.
I'm just so upset about this stuff because my niece is married to a black guy, and they live in Virginia, and he gets stopped all the time.
It's just disgusting.
It is, because he's the nicest guy. And when I lived in Portland, he came to stay with me, and he kept saying to my niece how wonderful I treated him. It's like he expects everybody to treat him bad. And I go, why?
Well, listen, you have to understand that especially men, black men, they walk through their lives on their best behavior all the time because they know how fast it can all go wrong. And so it's just ingrained to be, non-invasive, to kind of melt into the background, to, yes, sir, no, to be kinder than you normally would be. Because either you end up dead or you end up completely and totally humiliated outside of a Hooters trying to catch your breath while the police are called and you think, oh, finally they're here. Oh, they're coming for me. And I know. I told you about, there was that kid yesterday, in a Walmart parking lot who was, sitting in the parking lot early in the morning, taking his family to Walmart in his cousin's car. And they killed him. 30 bullets, 30 bullets. And he hears bullets and he's like, oh my God. And he tries to get away from the sound of gunfire, except they're firing at him.
And these people aren't doing anything. They don't even have the guns. It's all these right-wing extreme fascists with the guns.
Well, look, you have the worst fascist I could have imagined ever ascending to the presidency, hiring Beauregard as our civil rights, he's our beacon of civil rights enforcement. This man had to recuse himself from a Russia investigation because he met with too many Russians. You've got, a Donald Trump standing there going, I meant to say Mexicans are rapists. I got to tell you, these people from Honduras, they're being raped in numbers. None of that is true. So why does he say it? He says it because only 27% of America is supportive of his stupid $1.3 trillion tax cut for the wealthy because they don't see it. They know they've been bamboozled, so they have to double down and say, at least you're white. Shut up about it.
Yeah.
That's where we are. That is why all this conversation, that's why he keeps doubling down on racism and, everything's a disgrace to him. Listen, he is literally shredding or trying to shred every single thing about America that is good. And I'm telling you, I've said this, I wish I came up with this idea. I didn't. But America is only great because America is good. And when America ceases to be good, to each other, ceases to be good at getting justice for the scorned, the wronged, the humiliated, the ripped off, from the corrupt, ceases to be, a place where a man could work 8 hours a day and support a family, where a woman could, raise her children and work and support her children. When it ceases to be good that way, it's not great. It's just another also-ran. It's a young country with only 200 some odd years behind it. And, it can just disappear and disintegrate in a heartbeat. All it takes is one bad Congress with one bad president and one bad attorney general. And right now, that's where we are. It's where we are. And we all have to wake the fuck up. I'm so angry. I can't even take it anymore. And all this because I read a bunch of local newspapers. Damn. Buy a stinking podcast.